good morning and welcome back to the VSA Capital 5-Minute Morning Miner. We're back from PDAC, or at least Ollie and myself are. So morning, Ollie, and happy birthday from yesterday.
Morning, Andrew. Thank you very much.
We won't talk about ages, save embarrassment. Look, there's a couple of bits of news that I think are worth talking about first thing this morning. But then we'll have a quick roundup of a few things we saw at PDAC, which was incredibly busy. But first of all, look, two bits of news this morning. Endeavour... It's Endeavour Mining in the UK. I always get confused. There's so many Endeavours, aren't there? But obviously it's a FTSE stock. Great results because, of course, the gold price coming through.
Yes. I won't go through all the numbers in detail, but EBITDA was 2.3 billion, up 75% year on year. And they've managed to reduce net debt from about $500 million down to just over 150 million. These are all US dollars, by the way. So clearly the gold price is having a serious impact on their earnings. Dividends this year, $485 million. So the second half dividend was $0.83 per share. And they've committed to $1 billion over the next 4 years, which in the context of 485 this year actually sounds quite small. But they have got a lot of other work to do given the growth program they've committed to today to find an additional 12 to 15 million ounces in M&I resources over the next 4 years, which will increase the current resources for about 50%. They're 25 million ounces today. They've obviously tied up with East Star in London to help them do that in Kazakhstan, a bit of a sort of reverse Nord Gold strategy. And the market cap is still only about just under 5 billion. I'm not sure from notes if that's pounds or dollars, but still either way, it's pretty cheap. Obviously, there are some caveats there because the company does operate in some more difficult jurisdictions, including Burkina Faso. They also had some governance issues, which they're probably over now, but about 2 years ago that held them back. But I think it's generally a pretty good proxy for what's happening in the gold sector. And obviously, with the way that the gold price looks over the last year, clearly the impact of $5,000 an ounce gold is only just starting to come through into the earnings.
Yeah, look, the market is not terribly impressed, which I think is wrong. Stock's off 60p, which is actually, it's not a huge amount. It's about 1% or so. I think there's still a lot more upside in gold equities. They haven't caught up completely with the gold price. East Star Resources actually is a very interesting small cap company. And one we probably should be looking at a little bit more, Ollie, but for another day, maybe. Now, look, the other one that's worth talking about this morning is more news coming out of Strategic Minerals and their Redmoor tin and tungsten. They've done this, I think they called it their final drill hole, and oh my God, what a cracker it was. I mean, the tungsten grade is off through the roof.
It's definitely going to be a contender for probably one of the highest tungsten grade holes ever recorded. The global average, I think we probably said before on here, is somewhere around 0.7%, and you can make economic production well below that, particularly in this current market. But these grades are completely exceptional, and in fact, the 0.6 meters that they found with 2.76% tin and 3.19% copper, they're probably happy with any of those individually.
They are really quite amazing. Obviously, we closed a fundraising of about £2.1 million whilst we were at PDAC for Tamar Minerals, which is a fairly similar sort of business to Strategic Minerals. Only difference is Tamar is 4 million market cap, Strategic Minerals is about 80 million market cap. As soon as Tamar start drilling, I think they also will have exceptional drill holes. Not for tin and tungsten. They've got tin and copper mainly, but they may well find tungsten. But I think what you're going to see, obviously, Ollie, is down in Cornwall, and I was actually with 3 Labour MPs yesterday discussing this, and I've been discussing it with a Cornwall booth out in PDAC and various other people in in Toronto about what's going on in Cornwall. There is a lot of interest in the tin. Actually, inching up less on the tungsten out in North America. They all get there's a lot of tin there, but they're all expecting there to be M&A activity between the exploration companies, because basically Cornish Metals and Tungsten West, both of them are going to need more resource for their mills once they've actually got them up and running. Anyway, there's the news today. How did you find? Have you got over the jet lag? But how did you find PDAC, Ollie?
Well, actually, today the two news stories today that we've talked about are actually pretty good analogues for what's going on across the sector as a whole. You've got Endeavour, whose earnings are up significantly, and they're now making a serious strategy to grow their growth pipeline, which clearly includes the juniors as well, because they can't do that kind of exploration on their own, and they will need to go and buy projects at the earlier stage. And so the whole sort of M&A cycle and exit route for the juniors has come back together, and you can see now what happens when you do actually start to spend money on exploration. You get results, not every day like Strategic Minerals, but if you go and drill, you've got a much better chance of finding stuff than you do if you're just waiting.
I think you're right. There was a lot of talk about drilling and exploration coming back into favour, and I think we will see that. I mean, the big message that was, I think, also being pumped out was that mining is the way to play AI. Because the fact of the matter is that data centers use a huge amount of critical metals inside them, and also the energy required for a data center is so huge that you need either uranium or something like that to power them, or if you're using batteries, you need lithium and vanadium, or even if you're just going to use a gas-fired power station or something, you need all of the critical metals to be able to build it. So if you want to get exposure to AI, the best way to do it is through mining. And the feeling is that people are going to pull, particularly in North America, money out of tech, the big seven, and rotate it round into mining. So it was pretty upbeat. We saw quite a lot of, I would say, interesting companies as well, actually. Quite a few caught our eye, didn't they? I don't know, we probably maybe should go back to that tomorrow or something and name a few. If you had a couple of top, I'll let you have a couple of top picks on it, what would they be?
Well, obviously we liked our the themes that we've come out from Indaba with, and actually probably doubled down on those. I think there was a chance to catch up again with companies in Cote d'Ivoire and Namibia, which are the two top exploration regions in Africa at the moment with stable governments. And so there are a whole host of companies there, which I think Andrew's getting excited about going to see.
I am getting excited. I've got to say, Namibia there was some really good. I mean, there was Corex Copper, Ongwe Gold. We met out there, bumped into Anthony at Andrada, Rory at Arkle. I mean, they're all companies, I'm quite keen to go and see and look really, really exciting. I was taken by all of them. I mean, I listened again to Myriad Uranium, which has been a sort of quite a long-term favourite of ours. And every time I listen to them, I think, I should just go and buy it. Of course, they've come out with some really good drill results, haven't they, whilst we were away? And the stock's gone shooting up, so I might have to wait for it to come down again. But I'm always impressed by them. And I think the uranium space just looks really interesting. I listened to Dev of F3, who has a great track record in uranium. And you just think, uranium is a place to play. I mean, the other one, which again are sort of long-term favourites of ours, we were listening to Midnight Sun, which is copper in Zambia, which is great. And we're obviously doing the pre-IPO of Red Sea Resources, which is gold in Egypt. And that looks really, really interesting. Anybody who's interested in that, do let us know, because we're handling that at the moment. That was quite a good run through.
Yeah. And also it was a good chance to catch up with our Mexican silver stable of companies. And obviously there's been a lot of news out of Mexico recently, which has been not very good. But I think generally people, have always recognised that that's a risk there, and it's something that will pass.
I mean, the final one, actually, going back to what you were saying about Endeavour and gold, only managed to get a quick catch up with Victor at Amex Exploration, but clearly there is a lot going on there and a lot of interest. And I think we could see some activity there pretty soon. It could be, should we say, rewarding to shareholders. Anyway, on that note, we've been chatting for 10 minutes. This is a 5-minute morning miner. We'll maybe talk a bit more about PDAC tomorrow. But it's good to be back. The jet lag's not too bad. And yeah, Ollie and I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks.
This podcast has been produced and edited by VSA Capital. It is intended for information purposes and not as investment advice. The information is intended for recipients who understand the risks associated with equity investments in smaller companies. Please do your own research and do not rely on a single source when making an investment decision. VSA Capital may derive fees from this content and seeks to do business with the companies mentioned.